Some things don't matter until they do. And when they do, you realize they mattered all along. You just weren't paying attention. You were somewhere else, thinking about something else, waiting for the real moment to start. But the real moment was already happening. You just missed it. It started with a tie. A stupid tie. I was 17 and needed one for prom. Not because I wanted to go, but because Leo convinced me that skipping it would be something we'd regret later. He was wrong about that. I don't regret missing prom. I regret the tie. Not the tie itself, what happened around it. I went to the mall with my dad on a Saturday afternoon. The kind of afternoon that feels endless when you're 17, like time is something you have too much of. The department store smelled like carpet cleaner and old perfume and something floral I couldn't name. Fluorescent lights made everything look slightly artificial. We stood in front of a rack of ties and he held up one that was navy with small gray stripes. "This one," he said, "classic. You'll wear it again." He looked at me the way he always did when he was trying to give me something I didn't know I needed. Not desperate, just hopeful. The look of a father who wanted to be useful, to matter, to have his opinion count for something. I didn't give him anything back, just a shrug, just a fine. I took the tie, he paid for it, and we left. That was the whole transaction, 11 years ago. I've thought about it maybe 3 times since then, always in passing, never with any weight. Until last week. The tie has been in my closet ever since that day. Through university, through my first apartment, through 2 moves to different cities. It hung there, unworn, a relic of a night I barely remembered. Sometimes I'd see it when I was looking for something else, and I'd push it aside. It was just there, part of the background. Last week I had an interview, a good one, the kind you prepare for by reading annual reports and practicing answers in the mirror, the kind that could change the direction of your career. The morning of, I stood in front of my closet in boxers and an undershirt, coffee in one hand, and I saw the tie, navy with gray stripes, still in its dry cleaning bag from when my dad bought it. I don't know why I pulled it out, habit maybe, or something else, something I didn't have a name for yet. I opened the bag. It still smelled like that department store, like carpet cleaner and old perfume, like 17. Like my dad's cologne from back then. I held it for a second, just feeling the fabric, and then I put it on. It still fit. It looked fine. Classic, like he said. And then something happened. I was standing there, tie knotted, looking at myself in the mirror, and suddenly I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was back in that department store, watching my dad hold up that tie. I remembered how he'd looked at me, waiting for some kind of approval, some sign that I appreciated the gesture. I remembered the slight drop in his shoulders when I shrugged. I remembered him putting the tie on the counter without saying anything else. I remembered walking out of the store ahead of him, already thinking about something else, already somewhere else. And I felt it. For the first time in 11 years, I felt the weight of that shrug. Not guilt exactly, not regret, something quieter. Just recognition, a slow dawning understanding of what it cost him to be present in that moment and what it cost me to be absent. He had shown up, he had tried, he had given me something, and I had given him nothing. Not because I was cruel, because I was 17, because I didn't know any better, because I thought I had endless afternoons, endless chances, endless time to make it up later. But later comes whether you're ready or not. The interview went well. I got the job. But that's not the story. The story is what happened after. To celebrate, I went to a baseball game alone. Not sad alone, just alone. My choice. I'd been meaning to go for months, and this felt like the right time. The stadium was loud, full of families and groups of friends. People sharing hot dogs and arguing about calls and taking photos with their phones. I bought a hot dog and found a seat in the upper deck, where the players look small and the city spreads out beyond the outfield. The sun was setting behind the skyline, the lights came on, and I thought about my dad. I thought about all the games he took me to when I was a kid. The tickets were always cheap seats, upper deck, same place I was sitting now. He'd explain the rules, the strategy, the history of the players. He'd point out the pitcher's windup, the shift in the infield, the way the catcher set up for a curveball. I'd nod along, but never really listen. I was always waiting for it to be over, for the next thing, for something more interesting. I thought about the tie, and the shrug, and all the small ways I'd failed to be present with him. Not just at the games, at dinner, in the car, during the long afternoons when he was just around, being my dad, and I was just around being a kid who didn't know any better. A man in the row below me was explaining something to his son. The son was maybe 10, fidgeting, looking at his phone. The man kept talking, pointing at the field, trying to share something he loved. The son didn't look up, he just nodded the way I used to nod, waiting for it to be over. And I wanted to tap him on the shoulder. I wanted to tell him to put the phone down, to tell him that one day he'd be sitting alone in a stadium remembering this exact moment and wishing he'd paid attention, to tell him that the man next to him wouldn't be there forever, and that the things he was explaining, the rules, the history, and the small details of the game, weren't really about baseball at all. They were about love. They were about a father trying to share something with his son, trying to build a bridge between them, trying to say, "I love you," without saying the words. But I didn't tap him. I didn't say anything, because that's not how it works. You can't borrow someone else's hindsight. You can't gift them the understanding that took you years to earn. They have to earn it themselves. They have to live through their own shrugs, their own missed moments, their own quiet realizations in empty stadiums. That's just how growing up works. You don't get to skip the lessons. You have to take the long way. The game ended. The home team lost. The crowd shuffled out, buzzing with post-game analysis and plans for the ride home. I stayed in my seat for a few extra minutes, watching the grounds crew roll out the tarp, watching the lights reflect off the empty field. It was peaceful. The kind of peace that comes after something ends before the next thing begins. The kind of peace that feels earned, not given. I thought about calling my dad, telling him about the tie, about the interview, about the game. But it was late, and what would I say? Remember that tie I bought me 11 years ago? I wore it. It felt small, inadequate. He'd probably just say, "Good," and we'd hang up, and the moment would pass. Some things don't need to be said out loud. Some things are better left in the space between. So I didn't call. I drove home. The tie was on the passenger seat, still knotted, still smelling faintly of that department store. I left it there overnight. In the morning, I hung it back in the closet. But something had shifted. Not between us, inside me. A recalibration, a quiet adjustment in how I saw things. I started noticing things I hadn't before. The way my mom leaves voicemails that are just check-ins, not requests. The way my sister sends photos of her kids without asking for a response. The way my dad still calls me buddy, even though I'm 30. All these small, consistent acts of love I'd been filtering out for years. Not ignoring exactly, just not registering. Like background noise you stop hearing until someone points it out. And then you hear it everywhere. The tie hangs there now. I don't know if I'll wear it again, but I see it every morning when I open the closet. And every time I do, I pause, just for a second, just long enough to remember that the things we shrug off become the things we carry. Not as weight, as texture, as proof that we were there, being loved, and mostly missing it. And that's not a failure. That's just how it works. You miss it so you can see it later. You shrug so you can feel the weight eventually. The love was always there. You just weren't ready to receive it. That's the thing about growing up. You don't suddenly become wise. You don't wake up one day with all the answers. You just accumulate enough small regrets that you finally start paying attention. Not to the big moments, to the ties, to the games, to the conversations you barely had. You realize that the person you were didn't know they were being loved, and the person you are now can't go back and tell them. You can only carry it forward. So, you do the only thing you can. You wear the tie. You sit in the stadium alone. You notice the background noise, and you try in small, quiet ways to be present for the next person who's about to shrug you off, because you know they won't understand until later. And that's okay. That's just how it works. The love doesn't need to be recognized in the moment to be real. It's real anyway. It was real then, it's real now. It will be real for the next person who needs it, whether they know it or not. The tie is still in my closet, navy with gray stripes. Classic. I'll wear it again.